This is the 9th training video for the CARE program, which is going to go over lesson 9, which is active listening. If we check out the teacher manual, you can see that the only materials you're going to need for this lesson is the student workbook and those self-monitoring worksheets students have been filling out each week. So, same as previous lessons, we're going to start with the same 4 activities. We're going to practice a relaxation strategy, so either 30 seconds of calm breathing or choosing 3 to 4 muscles to practice muscle relaxation. Next, go ahead and review that self-monitoring sheet with students. Have students note any significant changes and talk about why they think those changes have occurred. Hopefully at this point we're starting to see some of those ratings drop a little bit. Next, have students reflect or review that short-term goal that they set at the end of lesson 8 and answer the reflection question in the student workbook. And then finally go ahead and have students review the homework from lesson 8. If you remember, lesson 8 was all about different perspectives, and so students had 2 cartoons where they needed to identify the perspectives of the characters in those cartoons. So you can review the answers to those and student responses to those. And then it is time to start lesson 9. So lesson 9 is called active listening, and we've got 2 goals for lesson 9. The first is we'll learn how listening can help us communicate with others. And then the second thing is the second goal is we are going to practice active listening. So to begin with, we're going to introduce students to the concept of listening. So this is on page 63 of the student workbook. We've got a definition here for listening. And you can talk with students about how listening is a really important part of communicating because it's part of how we share our feelings and opinions with others. We're going to share those feelings and opinions, but we need other people to be listening to them, and vice versa. And you can acknowledge that listening can be really hard to do. It can take time and practice to get good at listening, and there might be times where it's really hard to be a good listener. Also point out that listening is more than just hearing the words that people are saying. It's more than just keeping your voice quiet while somebody else is talking. It also means we're trying to understand a person's thoughts. And then note that when you don't listen, you can miss important information or you might misunderstand somebody. And it can also be hard to remember what the person has said. And so we've got an example down here. We've got Momo and Emily. So Emily's talking about how she's getting a new pet tomorrow, and Momo is not paying attention. He's thinking about what is for lunch, and then he realizes he doesn't know what Emily was saying, but he knows she was really excited about something. And so on the next page of the student workbook, we've got listening steps. We've got 5 steps to being a good listener. And I will say that these steps are very similar to what whole body listening looks like, which is often taught to younger students. So some of these steps might be very familiar to some students, but these are our 5 steps. So the first one is we want to have eye contact. We want to be looking at the person who's talking to you. And for this step, it's important to note that for some students, making eye contact is going to be very uncomfortable, and we don't want to force students who are uncomfortable making that eye contact to be sitting there looking somebody in the eyes, because that's not going to help that communication skill. What we do want to encourage, though, is for students to be facing the speaker and not looking at things that are distracting. So it's okay if you're not making constant eye contact with someone, but you need to be facing them. You need to not be looking at your phone or your tablet or a book or something else. You need to be facing that person and engaged in that conversation. Number 2 is don't interrupt. Let the other person finish talking before you respond. Number 3 is focus. Don't do anything else when you're listening. You want to keep your brain focused on the person talking. 4 is ask questions if you don't understand something. If you're unclear at what that person is trying to say, ask a clarifying question. And then 5 is to repeat what that person just said so that they know you understood. And so once you have walked through those steps, we're going to give students a chance to practice their active listening skills. And so you're going to go ahead and choose a discussion topic for students to talk about. But before students can give their own views, they're going to have to summarize what the person before them has just said. So they're going to want to use those active listening steps. So there are some examples of a discussion topic you can use in the teacher manual. For example, you could have students share their favorite ice cream flavor or another food and why. You could have students share if they could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? If they could get rid of any subject at school, what would it be and why? Or you can choose your own discussion topic. As you know, that part doesn't matter. But what you want to do is make sure that before a student can share their own opinion on whatever topic you've chosen, they're going to need to paraphrase, or they're going to need to summarize what the person before them had just said. So, for example, if we have student A who says, I would get rid of math because it's my least favorite subject and it's boring, before student B can share their opinion, they're going to have to be able to tell the group what subject student A didn't like and why. And then it would be the same as you move through your students. So once student B shares their opinion, student C is going to have to be able to share what student B has just said. And then you can do this a couple of different times with some different discussion topics and really emphasize to students and encourage them to be using those the 5 steps of active listening. And then on page 66, have students answer these 3 reflection questions. And if time permits, you can have students share answers aloud or with a partner. Our goal of the week, so have students set a short-term goal over something that they want to practice from lesson 9. So ideally we're looking at a goal here about using active listening, hopefully at school, and then steps that they can take to reach that goal. And then finally, make sure you review the homework for lesson number 9. The homework for lesson 9 is going to ask students to practice paraphrasing or summarizing what was said. That can be a tricky part of active listening, and so this is just going to give students an opportunity to practice this skill. And then make sure you're sending home that parent letter for lesson 9, and that is it.